Britain had a coal industry, a steel industry, a shipbuilding industry, a car industry, a truck industry, a motorcycle industry, a railway workshop industry. We were a workshop of the world when the Tories came. We were a workshop of the world when the Americans were still riding the range as cowboys in the Wild West. And look at us now, looking to a future of video games. And the idea that there's something wrong with subsidy is a triumph of accountancy over economics. Accountancy is about counting numbers. Economics is about the bigger picture. Because you close down a mine because you won't subsidize it, and then you subsidize the unemployed for generations afterwards. You close down a mine, you close down an industry rather than subsidize it and end up spending hundreds of billions and the lives of hundreds of thousands for wars overseas in order to make up for what you had yourselves and you destroyed. These people are economic illiterates. As Oscar Wilde put it, they know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And they certainly don't know the value of a community that goes to work every day, which has a real community, neighbours, workmates. And anybody who's toured the wasteland, they say April's the cruelest month, do it next month. Tour the wastelands that these people left behind them and see the human dereliction, never mind the physical dereliction that they left. And you'll never dare dream of re-electing this mob ever again.
Chairman, would you like a quick word? The next question is directed to you, sir.
Okay, well just very quickly, I agree with what George said. I just want to make one thing about the issue of coal as a green fuel or not. You see, if the coal industry belonged to us as it should have done, as it used to and as it should do now, then the question of whether we continue to mine it, whether we need it, whether it will destroy the ozone layer and all that, that's something that scientists and people who know about these things work out, we discuss, we take a decision, the communities are supported, you plan for new industries to come in gradually, you retrain, and the community stays intact. So it's not a question of is coal a dirty fuel or a clean fuel, it's a question of power. Do we have the power to control what we produce, how we produce it, how we transform it? Because of course, things will change. I mean, science moves on. It may well be that we still need coal and it can be burnt cleanly. It may well be that we have to change fuels. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But I do know that the community should not have to pay the price. We should be able to plan what we do. And we could have done if it hadn't been privatised and everything else. We could have said, yes, let's keep the mine for another 10 years, 20 years, we'll gradually transform it into something else, the jobs are protected, the apprenticeships are protected, and so on. We should be, we have the knowledge, we just have the power has been taken away from us. So it's a political question, it's not a scientific one.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is, it's lovely. We can go on with this all evening, but we are getting short of time, so I'm going to try and move it a little forward and just relax. We'll get as many of you involved as we can. Now then, this is from Phil Burton Cartledge, and I would like this to go to Ken Loach, please. Have you, Mr. Phil?
It's all right. I won't give you my microphone.
All right, thank you. For Ken Loach.
Do you think how different would Britain be if the miners had won the strike?
How different would Britain?
You said, what the question was that I got was, had the miners won the strike, how different do you think Britain would be today? Would it be better or a worse place, correct?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very interesting speculation. I think it would have transformed Britain, because I think in order for the miners to have won, all the support that they got would have transformed the political institutions. There would have been a movement of the left that would have been in power, because the energy that would have been generated from a miners' victory, and of course it was possible, as George was saying earlier, if the unions had actually stopped, pulled the plugs, we could have won. I say we, I would assume. Support of the strike. It could have been won, because nothing moves without workers moving. Nothing is produced without workers producing. The power is there, so it could have been won. If it had been won, yes, it would have transformed. It would have transformed us politically, because there would have been no new labour, there would have been no illegal war, there would have been no Margaret Thatcher at the rest, other industries would have been protected, we could have moved to a planned society. So I think it would have transformed us. It would have transformed the BBC, actually, for one thing, because they'd have had to apologise for reversing the footage of I'm very pleased to hear Edwina supporting the BBC. I guess her party won't be called for a cut in the licence fee. I'm very interested that when the Queen's footage was reversed and she was shown backing off in a hut when she was walking forward, somebody lost their jobs. When they put the pictures of the miners throwing stones at the police, and then they put the police attacking, of course when it was shot, the police were attacking, and then the miners retaliated, and they reversed it. I mean, that's a symptom of something that would have been interesting to talk about tonight if there was time. Just how the state operated against the miners in every aspect. It operated through the police, it operated through the intelligence services, it operated through international deals where scab coal was brought in through Rotterdam and so on, fed into non-union ports, and it operated most eloquently through the media, through television, through broadcasting, through the press. And that goes back to 1926, to the general strike, when the BBC, which was run by Lord Reith, the founder at the time, and he was under pressure from, this is time for a quick story, he was under pressure from Churchill, who ran a newspaper during the general strike called the British Gazette, and Churchill wanted to requisition the BBC and use it as a mouthpiece for government. And Baldwin, who was the Prime Minister, one or two others said, don't be so hasty. It's much better that they think the BBC is objective, because then they will believe them. If you use it as a propaganda rag, of course they won't believe it, and we lose one of our best weapons. And so, of course, the BBC, ever since, has maintained this notion of impartiality. But at the time of the general strike, the news bulletins were written in a government office. And they might well have been written in a government office for the bias shown against the miners in this strike.
Would you like to respond?
The 1926 strike is best part of 100 years ago. The miners' strike finished 25 years ago today. Actually, nobody's mentioned tonight, and it seems very odd if I do, that Michael Foot died today. And he was the leader of the Labour Party at the time. I had the greatest respect for Michael Foot. He was a decent, honourable, well-meaning, extremely bright man from an astonishing family that has given great service to this country.
Well, then I can say
Just a minute. The trouble was, he did what some of you have done here tonight. He would stand up and make fantastic speeches, and everybody would cheer, and they would march on. And the trouble was, he was speaking to the converted, just as you've been doing. And outside, people were saying, no. Margaret Thatcher was elected. The Conservatives were elected in 79. They were elected in 83 with a huge majority. They were elected again in 1987. Whatever happened with the miners' strike, that was likely to happen. The nation, the population in this country, and something like 75, 77% used to vote then, were voting for change. They were voting for the future. I have people coming to my constituency, into the surgery device bureau, the wives, not the men, very macho industry we've been talking about, but the wives saying quietly, do you think there's any chance of getting gas installed in our villages? Because we're sick and tired of clearing out the clinker at 7 o'clock in the morning. We want to have the same life as everybody else. And that was all we were trying to do, was to try and give them. And you may or may not accept this, but I think people here are pretty fair-minded, that actual Conservative MPs elected to represent mining areas were trying to do exactly that, exactly what you want, trying to give the people there a good life, a prosperous life, a future, one in which hard work and effort and brains were going to be rewarded. But we all knew it was going to be a different life from the life of 100 years before. It had to change, and it has to change again now.
So crushing the miners was in the 79 manifesto, was it?
Gas came from coal.
You're saying they elected to crush the miners in 79, is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You're trying to say that the Tories were elected in 79 to crush the miners?
The Tories were elected in 1979 because because strikers had brought down the last government, which happened to be a Labour one. Or have you forgotten
in the
that?
manifesto.
Have you forgotten that? That's why people voted Conservative. They'd had enough of strikes. They'd had enough of it. And when it came to 1983, they voted Margaret with an even bigger majority.
Yeah.
And that's why she fought the Margaret, and that's why she won.
But a gentleman there that's been, excuse me, a gentleman there that's been very patient. And there's another one.
25 years ago, 55 years ago, I said to my father, I want to go with my friends in the pit. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do with your son. Put your foot in that cage and I'll break both your legs. It's a dirty, dangerous job. Now, the last 30 years of my working life was in a mortuary. And I've assisted in literally thousands of post-mortems on miners. I've had to talk to miners' relatives. It is a dirty, dangerous job, and I have the utmost respect for miners. So you know where I'm coming from. Now, one thing is, I've just been elected as a councillor, and the first thing I was told is you are politically naive. A gentleman over there said Westminster is a live-loud con. If not, it's a dirty big con. And it's the same in local governments. I don't trust any politician. I joined the council, I didn't trust the opposition, and then I found out even in my own group I didn't trust them. So tonight, what I really would like, I would like the panel, and this is an only straightforward question, forget Arthur Scargill, forget Mrs. Thatcher, look at the situation we're in today.
Exactly.
We're sitting on thousands of tons of coal, we've got unemployment, we're buying coal in. Now I would like the panel to tell me, there's an election coming up soon, if you were now going to form a government, what would your priorities be?
Good question. And who would like to
Well, I'm the only serving Westminster MP, so maybe I should answer that. Ken Loach and I are members of the Respect Party, and if anyone's interested in our ideas, they can go to the Respect Party website and see where we stand.